There we go. Right, can we give a huge cheer to our final bavada of the evening? I'm very excited because this is a totally new bavard. And it's the wonderful Professor Lynne Murphy. So give her a cheer too.
Do you remember New Year 2022? We were all kind of like that, right? You know, sat at home in the dark, feeling a bit down. We thought it was over, but then came Omicron, right? And it went up and up and up and up and up. But there was something else that went up and up and up and up at the very same time, at much the same rate. And you probably saw it when you were there on your little phone in your dark room. It went up and up and up and up, even as Omicron was going down and down and down and down, right? It went up so much that it made its inventor or its creator a seven-figure sum to sell it to the New York Times. It was the most Googled word of 2022. So it really was the thing of the year. So at this point, I do have to sort of pause and say what it is, just in case you were not bitten by that particular bug. Wordle is a game where you try to guess a 5-letter English word. You've got 6 guesses, and when you put the 5 letters into the grid, it will give you gray if that letter is not in the word, yellow if it's in the word but you've got it in the wrong place, and green if it's in the right place. Right. Who's played Wordle? Good. Phew. Okay, it was made by this guy named Josh Wardle, and he made it for his family. This is his girlfriend, Palak Shah, I think her name is. And he made it by testing it out on her and sharing it with his family. They liked it, so it spread and it spread and it spread. But what does Wordle mean? Well, Wordle means the world to me, or at least it meant the world to the medieval English speakers. So Wordle was actually an English word before Josh Wardle thought he was making a pun on his own name. So Wordle meant the world. Here's a quote from 1340 from the Kentish dialect. The world itself has found it foul and contemptible, whatever it was, a sin they were talking about at that time, or possibly Wordle. And some people, when they were looking at Wordle for the first time, thought, well, what did this guy actually come up with? Because hasn't he just taken mastermind and created mastermind for words? Now, who remembers mastermind? Yes, because we've got boomers and millennials here, or boomers and Gen Xers. So this is mastermind. This photograph on the cover was taken in Leicester, glamorous Leicester, and it spawned a whole sort of industry of mastermind games, all of them with this curiously British colonial feel. When it spread around the world, it got a little bit different. So here's Poland's. Remarkably not feeling so post-colonial. And I think we can tell that, you know, who's the mastermind here. You know, and it's not this bureaucrat. But my favorite one is the Brazilian mastermind, starring Elliot Gould and Mia Farrow, I think. So yeah. I went down a little rabbit hole on mastermind while I was researching this, and so I did find out that, you know, so the man here, I can't remember his name right now, but he was the owner of several hairdressing salons in Leicester, and he was thought to be distinguished looking, so they asked him to come in and had his picture taken for this game. The woman, whose name I think is Cecilia Fung, was a master's student in computer science at University of Leicester, and they just pulled her off the street to do this photo shoot. They had a reunion 30 years later. But the reason why they had to pull her off the street was that originally it was going to be this guy and a cat. And the cat weed on the man, and it wasn't working out. But this could have been the cover of Mastermind. But Wordle isn't Mastermind, because Mastermind does not tell you which things you got in the right position. It only tells you that you have some things in the right position. So if you want to play Mastermind with words, there's an app called Wordle, which is a lot harder than Wordle. Did Josh Wardle invent Wordle? Well, I'm going to show you this from 1987.
This Monday, it begins, Pam, with the letter A.
Amble, A-M-B-L-E. Audio, A-U-D-I-O. About, A-B-O-U-T.
So that's a game called Lingo, which has been on the air on and off since 1987, doing the same sort of thing that Wordle did, right? So telling you which ones are in the right position, which ones are in the wrong position, 5 letters. If you maybe perhaps recognized that guy, is a Nepo baby hiring, because that is Michael Reagan, Ronald Reagan's oldest son, doing his television bit in the 80s. So what did Josh Wardle actually do? I mean, the game looks pretty old, right? But it hadn't been a game that everybody could play before now. And so he made the app, and the app was really what did it. He also made it addictive in a certain way by making it just one a day. So you never felt too guilty about doing it. It was less than 3 minutes of your time, and you could, do it with your morning coffee and then get on with your day. Another thing that made it spread so far was the shareable results. Those, green and yellow boxes, right? He did not make that up. So the game had started to spread amongst people he knew and people they knew. And somebody in New Zealand started posting her results with emojis, emoji boxes. And he thought that was a great idea, so he added it into the app. But what I think really makes Wordle Wordle is its word list. And what I like about talking about Wordle is what it can teach us a little bit about how the English language works. You knew I had to get there sometime. So there are over 10,000 5-letter words in the English language, maybe as many as 13,000, depending on what you do or don't decide to count. Over 10,000 words are playable in Wordle, but only about 2,309 in the New York Times version are winner words, right? So you can put in, I think alias is supposed to be in there. Sorry, there's one in there. You can put in aloes, but aloes is never going to win. But it will tell you which letters you got right, which ones you got wrong. So Palak Shaw's contribution was she was the person who went through the word list and told Josh which words she thought other people would know. Okay, and so the word list is the words that she chose. The green ones have already been answers in Wordle, so they will not come up again, at least not until Wordle's done its whole round. The yellow ones could still be the answer. But not all of the words are words that everybody does know. And this has been great for dictionary companies. So dictionary publishers have had a horrible time over the last 30 years. I mean, I am the editor of a journal called Dictionaries, and I've just watched everybody I know in lexicography save 2 people lose their jobs over the last 30 years. So the dictionary people are very excited about Wordle, because every time a word comes up and people lose in large numbers, they get spikes in their lookups. In this case, it was caulk, which Americans know this word much better than British people do, because British people tend to say sealant. But that was a word that stumped a lot of people. They looked it up. Then again, there are these words that have spellings that not everybody approves of, and so we get lots of complaints. Wardle, Josh Wardle is a Welshman, but he has lived in Brooklyn for like 20 years or something, and it was his girlfriend who chose the words. So when it became Homer, which was May 23rd, 2022, that was the word that sort of almost broke the dictionary. So 70,000 lookups in one day in the Cambridge Dictionary, lots and lots of complaints for months afterwards. So I had to write a thing about Homer for some publicity for the dictionary. And I was writing it up in January when they announced their word of the year, which was Homer. And at that point, there were still several tweets a week of, I still haven't forgiven them for Homer. But Wordle has, of course, created a big trend in games. You can play Wordle-type games with music, with maps, with all sorts of languages. There's a thing that I love called Redactyl, where they take most of the words out of a Wikipedia article, and you have to fill in the words. I really recommend it. You will be rubbish at it at first, but you will get better. But what I want to look at is the languages and why Wordle is so perfect for English, why English is so perfect for Wordle. So, number one, we're an alphabetical language, right? So, Chinese, there is a Chinese Wordle, but it's not about finding words, it's about finding idioms. And it's really quite clunky to play. Other languages, I for a while was playing in Swedish and French. Swedish is much harder than English because it's got 9 vowels. No, it doesn't have to. It has 8 vowels. And French is much easier than English. So English is the best because English is the worst, right? We all know that English spelling is notoriously difficult, and it's very difficult for people to learn to read English. If we were learning to read Spanish, we'd learn to read faster than we had to in English. Because there's a lot of weird things going on in how English is spelt, but also just in how English words can be formed. So, this background is coming out much darker than it was meant to. But one of the weird things about English, which is not true of languages like French or Italian, is that you can have 4 consonants in a row in a 5-letter word. Equally, you can have 4 vowels in a row in a 5-letter word. So the possibilities for where things can be in a word are great. And in just 5 letters, you can get a 1 or 2 or a 3-syllable word. So that's going to make you have to think a little bit harder about what you could be putting where. And so, the colors didn't come out here. What this was a chart showing that for any letter in the alphabet, M can go in place, 1st place, 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th place, 5th place. There are only 3-letter place combinations that do not work in English. So we have no words ending in 5-letter words ending in a J, no 5-letter words with a Q in the 4th position, and no 5-letter words with a V at the end. We do have one that starts with X, but it will never win Wordle. So it's one of those words that you can play, but it won't win. And the same with trank, ending in a Q. So one thing about English is we can put any letter almost anywhere, and that makes it really tricky, and therefore a bit fun. And the reason why we can do that is because English is, of course, such a magpie, right? It loves to take in words from other places. So, just looking at a bit of that chart, we've got words coming from Greek, from Inuit, from Latin, from Old English. Vinyl is half Latin, half Old English, right? So we've got all sorts of crazy things happening there, meaning that we can put letters in all sorts of weird places. And 5 letters is perfect for this kind of game, because once you get if you have fewer than 5 letters, there aren't as many words, so the game's not going to last as long. Once you go over 5 letters, the predictability of the words gets much higher. So it's much, much more likely that the word has come to us from French or Latin, and therefore the number of words ending in E-R-N goes up, 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 until the game becomes much less fun. But if you like less fun, you can play Wordle, which will let you play honor with a U. Okay, so the last thing I want to sort of cover is what's the best starting word, because that's what people always ask. And computers have been asked to do this, to figure this out. And so here are 3 headlines about computers figuring out the best Wordle starting word. The problem with computers, they're really inconsistent, right? And not only that, but they're not very good players, because that word there, I don't even know what it is. Is it salad? Is it sale? I don't know. It can't win, so you're never going to get Wordle in 1 if you follow that computer. But they've all come up with different ones. And I would say even if they had all come up with the same one, it would be a bad idea to follow the computer, because computers don't think the way people do. And the way people play is going to lend itself to different good starting words. And besides, when they do try to get computers to play it, they're not very good at it, right? So ChatGPT, it has written some of my students' essays, but it is not beat Wordle. I asked in preparation for this one night when I was up very late writing slides, my friends on Facebook to share with me their statistics pages from Wordle, and 16 of them did in the allotted time. And I asked them what their starting word was. And so really what the game is, so some people got bored with Wordle. They're like, I always win. But for people who are more interested in it, they're not interested, did I win? They want to know, did I win in less than 4? Is my average staying under 4? So you can see here the different words that my friend started with. The top person there, her name is Janet. She's an American living in Oxford. She is incredible. She's a retired oil person in the oil industry. But anyway, she's got one she's never had a 6. She's always got her Wordle in less than 5. So you can see here that she starts with adieu, sauté, or audio. She goes between those. And this has not actually helped other people who've started with those words. So it's not really about what word you start with. It's about what you do with it once you've got the information that word has given you. I'll just press up there. Grand is mine. It won a couple of months ago. I had to change my word. So I have had a 1, but I'm so jealous of my friends. I've got to work harder. But anyway, as you can see, it's a little bit of an obsession. And for those of us who like it, we start to think in our 5-letter words. So I say great that the other main lesson I want you to take away from tonight, if you do play Wordle, is don't start with adieu. You'll never get it in 1. It is not one of the 2,300 words. But anyway, that's what I had to say about Wordle. I ruined my average for that response right there. But I do have a newsletter where I talk about languagey things. If you're interested, you can sign up using the QR code. And I do have a book with me, if you're interested. So thanks very much.